In the cradle of civilization, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers cradle the land, lies the story of a powerful empire and a reluctant prophet. This is the tale of the Assyrians and the Book of Jonah. The Assyrian Empire, a formidable force in the ancient Near East, dominated the region for over 1,000 years. From their early beginnings in the city-state of Ashur to their peak as rulers of a vast empire, the Assyrians left an indelible mark on history. The reign of Tiglath-Pileser, 1115-276 BC, saw a revitalized upswing in Assyrian fortunes, with energetic military campaigns in all directions and a slew of grand construction projects. This set the tone for the rest of independent Assyrian history. Through ups and downs, kings would march out virtually every year to defend their lands and attack their neighbors. Enemy cities would be besieged and taken by storm. Countrysides would be ravaged and tribute would be gathered. Foreign kings would kneel as vassals to the ruler of Assyria, and a dizzying cycle of revolts and harsh crushing of rebels at the hands of superior Assyrian arms would play out, with innumerable atrocities boasted about by the Assyrian kings themselves. Ashurbanipal was the son of Esarhaddon and the brother of Shamash-Shum-Ukin, and upon their father's death in 668 BC, Ashurbanipal became the Assyrian king in Nineveh, while Shamash-Shum-Ukin became king in Babylon. Ashurbanipal was a popular king among the Assyrians, but was known for the cruelty shown towards his enemies, including putting a dog chain of an Arabian king and forcing him to live in a dog kennel. He continued his father's war against Cush and Nubia in Egypt, and he campaigned deep into Egypt, destroying the Kushite Empire and conquering Libya. In 667 BC, he defeated the Kushite king Taharka near Memphis, and he also defeated rebellious Egyptian vassals. Necho I became the Assyrian puppet pharaoh of Egypt, but in 664 BC, the new Kushite king Tantamani invaded Egypt and slew Necho in battle. Ashurbanipal sent in another army, which also defeated the Kushites, and the Assyrians plundered Thebes. That same year, he vassalized the Elamites after they launched a failed invasion of Assyria. Under Ashurbanipal, the Neo-Assyrian Empire stretched from the Caucasus in the north to North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula in the south, and from Cyprus and the Levant in the west to Iran in the east. Ashurbanipal enjoyed peace during the last 2 decades of his reign, and he died in 627 BC. After his death, Assyria declined due to a series of civil wars which weakened the empire. The Assyrians developed and employed a variety of siege engines to breach enemy fortifications. These included battering rams, which were used to break down gates and walls, and siege towers, which allowed soldiers to scale high walls and gain access to besieged cities. These tall mobile towers were rolled up to the enemy walls, allowing Assyrian soldiers to climb up and over the defenses. Siege towers often had multiple levels and were equipped with drawbridges that could be lowered onto the walls. Assyrian engineers were skilled in sapping, a technique involving digging tunnels under enemy walls to destabilize and collapse them. They sometimes used wooden supports that could be set on fire to hasten the collapse. Assyrian cavalrymen at first mounted horses, as they would donkeys, farther back to the rear, which will damage a horse's kidneys, before figuring out the correct riding position. At first, Assyrian cavalry units were organized like the infantry, in duo teams of an archer and a shield bearer, which held the reins of the archer's horse when he loosed his arrows on the enemy. Later, Assyrians moved on to cavalry units where every cavalryman sported a bow and lance. The Assyrian Empire was one of the early adopters of iron technology, transitioning from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age around the early 1st millennium BCE. This gave them a significant advantage over adversaries who still relied on bronze weaponry. Assyrian soldiers used iron swords, spears, and daggers. Iron weapons were stronger and more durable than those made of bronze, allowing for more effective combat. Assyrian archers used arrows with iron tips, which could penetrate armor and shields more effectively than bronze-tipped arrows. In addition to swords and spears, Assyrian soldiers wielded iron axes and maces. These weapons were particularly effective in close combat and for breaching enemy defenses. Assyrian kings did enjoy lion hunting, and it was one of their favored pastimes. Lion hunting was not only a sport, but also a significant cultural and political activity. Lion hunting was a royal tradition that symbolized the king's strength, bravery, and ability to protect his people. It was seen as a demonstration of the king's prowess and his dominance over nature. The depiction of lion hunts served as political propaganda. By showing themselves defeating powerful animals, Assyrian kings reinforced their image as strong and capable leaders. These hunts were sometimes public events, attended by courtiers and dignitaries. They served as grand spectacles to showcase the king's valor and to entertain and impress the audience. God calls Jonah, the son of Amittai, to go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against its wickedness. Instead of obeying God's command, Jonah attempts to flee from the presence of the Lord by boarding a ship bound for Tarshish, which is in the opposite direction of Nineveh. While at sea, a severe storm arises, threatening to destroy the ship. The sailors, terrified, each pray to their own gods and throw cargo overboard to lighten the ship. Jonah, meanwhile, is sleeping below deck. The captain wakes him and urges him to pray to his God. The sailors cast lots to determine who is responsible for the calamity, and the lot falls on Jonah. Jonah confesses that he is fleeing from God and suggests that they throw him into the sea to calm the storm. Reluctantly, the sailors comply, and the storm ceases immediately. God sends a great fish to swallow Jonah, and he remains in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. While inside the fish, Jonah prays to God, expressing his distress and repentance. He acknowledges God's power and vows to fulfill his mission. The fish vomits Jonah onto dry land, and God again commands him to go to Nineveh. This time, Jonah obeys. He travels to Nineveh, a city so large that it takes 3 days to cross, and proclaims that in 40 days, Nineveh will be overthrown. The people of Nineveh believe Jonah's message, proclaim a fast, and put on sackcloth as a sign of repentance. Even the king of Nineveh repents, issuing a decree for all people and animals to fast and wear sackcloth, urging everyone to turn from their evil ways and violence. Seeing their repentance, God relents from destroying Nineveh. However, Jonah is displeased and angry, feeling that God's mercy towards Nineveh is unjust. He prays to God, expressing his frustration and stating that he fled initially because he knew God is compassionate and would forgive the people of Nineveh. According to historical accounts, including those of the Babylonian Chronicle, heavy rains led to the Tigris River flooding during the siege of Nineveh in 612 BCE. The floodwaters breached a section of the city's walls, causing significant structural damage and creating a critical vulnerability. The flooding weakened the integrity of Nineveh's defenses by collapsing parts of the walls, allowing the besieging coalition of Babylonians, Medes, and Scythians to penetrate the city's defenses more easily. This breach was a pivotal moment in the siege, leading to the fall of the city.